He's a great guy, and Dad being a great guy, we sort of had keep in touch, but not.
Didn't you see her recently?
Yeah, just last summer she came up, and her husband.
Where do they live?
In Massachusetts.
Oh,
yeah, they've
cool.
traveled a lot. Her first years of marriage, what'd she say? She moved 20-some times.
You're kidding, because of his job?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's just all over the place. So we sort of didn't keep in touch too much then, but then we're still not all the time, but we still go back to the.
Cool.
So, yeah.
What did you and Dad do for fun, like when you were dating or before you had kids?
Well, one of our first dates, Dad was working Saturday weekends, so really we didn't go out Saturday night. Like if we
that was usually the thing most people did.
I think if we went to maybe a movie, and he took me the first time. He wanted to take me up to this club where he had worked on a Saturday night. That they had this entertainment in, and the band was working, and it had a girl that did some kind of a show, and she danced in like a big cocktail glass or something.
Yeah,
it was a nightclub but they also had Saturday nights for dances for people. So he says, you know what? I know these. I've been working up there. He had been working up there for a while, I guess, every Saturday night. And he says, I want to take you out for a steak dinner. They have this. You should get Dad in here.
Oh, he already told me this story on his tape.
Yeah. So anyway, we ended up having to scrape the money together to pay for that. So, but that sort of broke all the any hang-ups. It was like, well, we were both in this, and really I was working at Commercial Credit, not making, it was a decent job, and Dad really was only playing his dance music, so he needed that to play in that. So really, when we were dating, basically a movie, or I'd come up sometimes and we'd go on picnics with his family, they used to like to fish.
Yeah.
So, and that was all Greek to me. I'll never forget one of the first times. He told me to come up, we'll go to church, and then we're going to go fishing. And he tells me not to dress, you can wear anything. I go to church in clothes that were so inappropriate because he told me that we were going to St. Anthony's, and I didn't quite get what he was saying. Well, how are we going to do all this? But anyway, I just remember being embarrassed because I didn't dress nice enough to go to church. But we were going to go for a picnic afterway, But I guess it just it never really.
You never thought to change clothes.
I don't think he thought anything of it, but I can remember that. So that was it, and then we didn't go out with a lot of other couples or not. And then the next year I got back into the minstrel. I don't think he was in it then. But,
well, you were dating, but not when you were married.
No, so that next year I was in it, but he wasn't. And back then is when his dad said about he says, you got to think of your future, because we got engaged that first Christmas. That was a total shock to me.
Oh, how do you propose?
Well, it was Christmas, and first of all, he bought me a watch for my birthday. And they were already, right in that period, Grandpa was working for the Heinz Company. As a salesperson. And then he wanted to get off the road, and he went to a butcher shop because he had raised in that type of thing, because he wanted to get off.
See, I thought they went from the Rockney Grill to the appliance store. But he had jobs in between.
No, he was working for the traveling, and Dad used to go with him a lot on his trips. He'd stock the shelves and that, So, when Dad was in college, he'd come home, and that's before I knew him, but he'd go with his dad, and they'd stock the shelves and travel to mostly around Somerset County. And so then, what was I thinking? Oh, so that's when. Then I got this watch on my birthday in October, and then I'm thinking, well, I don't know if he's as serious as I am, and I just didn't know where our relationship was going to go, because I just sort of didn't quite feel he wanted to, was going to settle, get married or something. We really didn't talk about it that much.
Was he still playing out of town then?
Yeah, no, he was local then, you know. So at Christmas time, we were at my house, and then we went up Christmas Eve, and he had all this planned, I guess, that I didn't really know about. And we go up to his house, and we're in the living room, because they had, the way their house was, the living room was downstairs with the piano room there.
Yeah, I remember that house
The living room was opened up from the reception room. Then later on it changed, you know. But so I remember being there, and they had this vinyl furniture, this leather furniture or something, and it was all covered with vinyl, a clear plastic, like all the furniture was covered. And that's when I just don't know how I don't remember how he actually said it, but he brings this ring.
Did he get down on his knee?
I don't think so. I don't remember that, but I don't think he did, you know. And I was in total shock.
So you hadn't talked about marriage or anything before then? Wow.
And I'm thinking, where did he get this ring? Where did he get
I didn't know what size.
We don't have any money. He didn't have any money. I didn't have any money.
Yeah.
And by then, they had started that summer in this little gift, in this shop.
Him and Grandpa.
Yeah, they started this little, called it the Wimber Discount Store. And they were just getting started in it. That's the summer before that. And so I was totally shocked, you know, and it was a beautiful ring. It was, you know, like just where did he get this money? I just didn't. I was in shock. So totally happy, you know. So so later on, then he told me that it was his mother's diamond that him and his parents got together and had it all reset in a nice setting. It was a nice square solitaire. Yeah. So.
What did your parents think about you getting married to him?
Oh, they were happy.
Yeah, they really liked him.
Yeah,
That's
they were
good.
very happy. You know that. Did you see that videotape where I'm coming out with my wedding gown and my VCR?
No.
Yeah, we have a VCR.
Do you have a video of your wedding?
Not the wedding, of me coming out of my church and some of the reception. Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
It's a VCR tape.
Yeah, I'd love to see
I have to get it on. I should get it put on a
disc,
DVD.
yeah.
And you and Mary, you and Barb were little. You were dancing around after on some of the tape.
Oh, wow.
But the original tape was my...
So it was those reel-to-reel, and you had to put on video.
And now it has to go on a disc.
Yeah.
Because you and Barb were dancing around your little plaid skirts
we have
and playing
pictures.
Mighty Mouse and all that. That's all on that tape.
I'd love to see
got
that.
I have to get that next time you
or bring it with you.
Come soon.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to come in August. The kids would like to see that.
Yeah, so... It was my dad and my mom walking out of our house, going to the church.
And was all your family there for the wedding?
Yeah,
Did
they
your
were.
older sisters were able to
right,
be there?
They were. But it's hard to see most of it.
Yeah.
You know,
oh, that's no. I didn't even know you had that.
Yeah.
So
anyway, we had no plan. We said, well, we were engaged, but
didn't have a
we
date.
had no idea when we were going to be able to afford to get married. So anyway, I think his mom and dad wanted us to get married, so they saved this apartment for us on the third floor
in the red
house. And I thought, wow, they're not renting that apartment, and we don't have. That could be a long time, you know. And it just was so nice to hear that they were thinking of that, thinking we were going to have a beautiful apartment, you know. And so that summer came along, and we really hadn't talked about it. And I think August or something, no, it couldn't have been August because we were married in September, but I guess the middle of summer, Dad starts thinking about having to drive back down to Ferndale every winter, because that trip from Wimber to Ferndale back then was not a good ride. There was like just
bad
one lane either way, two lanes, and the weather would get horrible up there. And Dad never did like bad weather, you know. And in Ferndale, we were down in this little valley, and they would salt the streets, and he'd leave the house, and it would be a different world up in Richland. And it just bothered him. So he says, you know, we'd start talking, and he says, you know what? I'm not driving down here another winter. he says, either we're going to get married, something to that effect, or we're going to get married. So we ended up planning a wedding in probably 3 months.
Wow.
And
got married before the snow started.
Yeah, so that's basically why it ended up that way. And of course, again, we just pretty much had my pay, and things were just starting out in the store. Just everything was going back into the business, and Dad would work in the dance work at night, and that's what we lived on. And his parents had that apartment for us. And
so you lived there for free in the...
Oh,
yeah. Nice.
Oh, it was so... We fixed it up so nice. Oh, my God.
Do you have any pictures of it?
There might be a few on that videotape, but Dad was... Right that summer, then, is when they started getting into furniture, the furniture part of it. And a salesman would come through Winburn and say, "Where are you getting that furniture?" And he would say... They said, "Well, this guy in Johnstown is bringing it up on consignment.
Oh.
When he brings it up, and we pay him when we sell it." Well, Dad they were learning as they went along, because they'd bring up 6 living room sets up, and they sold them right away because they didn't know they had to make more money on it. So they sold them really cheap. Yeah, sold them really cheap, but they went fast. So here, my recollection is that this salesman from this company they were all connected to the Eureka store, and they were selling only to the Eureka store. And they started seeing furniture there at the store, and they'd stop by and they'd say where are you getting the furniture? And Dad would tell them that that was the situation. They said, "Well, why are you buying from him? We can sell you direct from the factory." And so this one guy, Dave Lightman, who's still a friend of ours, he's still down in Florida, he had a bedroom line. And then one of his friends had mattresses. So we ended up buying, and then somebody had a living room line, but one person would bring another person in, and they were with us as salespeople for a long time, And the Eureka store would get real mad because they were bringing in the furniture, and they were selling it more than, they didn't want the competition. Sure. So we've got this white vinyl couch. It was like just a couch. On the one side of this room was a real, 22 by probably 13 room or something, the living room. So we had a lot of room to furnish. We had a black sectional in there at the one end, and the other end had this white leather couch. It wasn't real leather, but it was very nice. And we had in the apartment had a round kitchen. And we had a nice little kitchen table in there. We got a nice bedroom set, mattress. We had a nice bedroom in that, and that's how we got started. Wow. And, I kind of remember the pictures with the black sectional and the ones of me and Barb in our plaid skirts. Right. That sectional was in there. Yeah, so anyway, that's how we got started. And then, of course, it was like, well, we didn't have any money, so we can't have any babies. And did Dad tell you that story? About the rhythm chart? Yeah. I think that's on Mary's part, too. So that's how that started. And when Barb was born, and, 2 kids in less than 2 years. Oh, my God. That must have been hard. And that's when you had all your migraines, too. Well, they were starting when before I was even married, the first one. And I don't know what caused that, but, I was getting them then. And then I felt good when I was pregnant with Mary, and then then they came back bad after that. But anyway, yeah, that was something. He's working a lot then with the band. How many hours a week would you say he worked when you guys were first married? Oh, he worked a lot, and get down the store every day. And then at first, when he would work probably 2 nights a week, Fridays and Saturdays in the band. And it was tough. Getting used to married life and having 2 kids right away, and it was a, if you get through that, I guess you get through it. I'd have, I remember then, oh, so hard to go down into the basement and wash clothes from the third floor, wash the diapers. I was so done with that kind of stuff. And, you know, having your first child, like having to sterilize bottles, wash diapers, and really didn't bounce back from pregnancy very fast.
And you had two so close together,
yeah, and then, you know, when I got pregnant with you, it was over the summer, and I got a flu over the summer and got weak, and so it wasn't a hard pregnancy, but just, you know, I was run down. And being on the third floor, trying to, you know, go downstairs, and then shortly after that, you know, I know Dad would come home from the store. I'd make lunch sometimes for them, and sometimes I'd go downstairs into their apartment and make lunch.
Oh, for him and Grandma and Grandpa, they'd all come home for lunch?
They wouldn't come home. He'd come and pick it up. And, that was pretty hard. And then that stopped, and I realized that was too much for me. I couldn't keep doing that.
Yeah.
So
especially with two little kids.
Yeah, right. So... but Dad would come home usually at lunch back then, but then he'd take it. I think that's what it was. He'd come home and eat, and then I'd make sandwiches for them.
Oh, and he'd take
and you know what? They ate hamburgers every day.
For lunch?
For lunch, except Fridays. It was
fish.
Scrambled eggs with peppers in ketchup.
Oh, yum.
Every day I remember making hamburgers. Now, I don't know how long that went on, you know, but for that certain period of time, that's what it was.
Wow.
And then, so I guess Grandpa would sometimes come home and make something different. I don't know, but I just remember the only thing I ever made was hamburgers. Or hamburgers. So, yeah. But when we first got married, I had to go into Johnstown to work. And from September to May, and Dad would get home from his work faster, you know, so he would cook dinner, try to have dinner for me when I got home, yeah, because it would be like, well, we worked till 5 until we get home. It was after 6 o'clock if I took a bus or whatever, and so I don't know if he told you this story about he thought he made this real nice dinner, and he got sauce from his mom and dad and had it cooking, and he had made a salad, and he wanted to know, you know, exactly when I was coming home, and so he cooks the spaghetti, and he has everything set up for me. It was just so nice in this nice little kitchen we had, and this was right after, you know, we were married, before I even knew, I guess, I was pregnant. And he says, and I wasn't pregnant at the time when we got married, but right afterwards, it was like, you know, Barb was born 9 months and a week after.
Wow.
Everyone was talking. Anyway, I come in and what's wrong with this spaghetti? It was all gooey and all that. Here, he didn't put it in the water. He put it right in the sauce to cook in the sauce, and it was all thick.
That's so funny. He did tell that story too.
Yeah, he did. He did?
Yeah.
So anyway, then it was like I'd start coming home, and it was like a real drag. And I thought, what's wrong with me? You know, and Dad would say, "Oh, this peppy girl I married was a dancer, and all this, and now she can hardly get home from work, sick in the stomach." You know, I had evening sickness a lot, nausea. I'd come home and I'd fall asleep. I'd try to be, you know, a lot of times we'd be there with his parents, and I'd be sleeping. And that's what I was thinking, oh my gosh, I have a chart. How could she be? And Dr. Hoffman said, she's not anemic, she's pregnant. So, anyway.
Did you guys freak out? Like, you were like, oh my God, what are we going to do?
We should have, but we didn't. We did mostly because I found out then that I had health insurance at work, but it didn't cover maternity.
Oh.
So we were thinking, oh my gosh, you know, how are we gonna handle this? As it turned out, I worked till like I could, and then I got unemployment, and Dad, you know, the business just bought our groceries and things that we needed, and Dad's dance money paid for the rest and stuff, you know. So we just took it, and I was happy. You know, I was happy. It wasn't what we planned, but it was fine. I never, was sad about it or upset. But one thing when we got married,
when you got pregnant again 14 months later,
I didn't even care about that. It was by then. Who cared?
You already had one.
So, anyway, that's it. We never planned having a family and whatever.
So you didn't have like a big plan when you got married, like you're going to do this and that.
We sort of did. Then we, what was I going to say? Like, so when after we got married, we saved our money, which was probably $300 or $400 that we got for our wedding, and we had gifts, but the money part was probably $300 or $400. I'm going to say. So I mean, I have it. I probably still have the book. $5, $10, 20, maybe. That was the most you'd ever got. So we saved all that money, and we never really went on a honeymoon. And we were going to, but by then, when, we didn't, and because of business and the working and all that, and we couldn't figure out what we could afford, and Dad didn't want to fly, or he didn't even want to drive, I don't think, somewhere. We were just trying to think what we were going to do. Well, then, as the time went on, we didn't do it, and I found out I'm pregnant, and then I checked about the insurance, so we ended up saving that money for Barb's. But so the doctor bill was $90.
Wow.
And the hospital I think was $150.
Holy
so we made it.
Wow. How long were you in the hospital when you had her? 3
or 4 days. My delivery was great. Dad went golfing that day, and he says, it was a week from being my due date, about a week from my due date. And it was a nice Wednesday, and his mom and dad were working, and they came home early from the store, I think. And he went golfing with Shaz Uhas. And he says, "How you feeling?" And I says, "Well, my back's bothering me, but nothing happening, fine." And,
go ahead and go.
And, go ahead and go. And so I remember ironing. And I said, "I have this ironing I'm going to do," and I was up on the 3rd floor then, the apartment. And I was doing this ironing, and my back started bothering me. That was like late in the afternoon. And I go down to, because Dad didn't leave till afternoon, to golf, because everybody worked Wednesday morning and closed and went
really?
golfing.
That was common.
It closed Wednesday, like Shaz and them. Everybody closed on Wednesday, and they went golfing. So Grandma and Grandpa come home, and